and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. My name is Linda Battellini, and I serve as the Vice Chair of your Board of Trustees. Ours is a community of diverse theologies, a community of various cultural, racial, and class backgrounds. We are a broad range of genders and sexualities, and a community of people with disabilities and abilities, both seen and unseen. Some here bring the culture of their family's religion with them. Some find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others in great sermons and great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to join us with your whole self here, where we come for community, we find inspiration, and we live with purpose together. This Sunday is our Bring a Friend Day, so we'd like to welcome you who came with a trusted friend and are open to learning about our community. I was lucky to have such a friend when I first went to a UU church 35 years ago. When I was a newcomer, this faith was a breath of fresh air to me. It was not as simple as the Roman Catholic Catechism I memorized in second grade, and I didn't have to declare or even accept any creed or directives from the clergy. And how refreshing to talk with the atheists who found a community in a church. UU churches gave me access to the wisdom of our well-educated and prepared ministers, as well as our other congregants. They challenged me to develop my own views within the UU context and provided me with a loving community of support for my spiritual journey and for my changing life. So I came to Unitarian Universalist for community, and I continue to find my inspiration and purpose here. Our service today will give us Reverend Amanda's insights into the core beliefs of Unitarian Universalism, and I look forward to again renewing my understanding of our faith. After the service, Reverend Amanda will be in the volunteer room in that direction, right down the hallway from the entrance, so you can meet her and ask any questions you might have. And we'll have our coffee hour in the center, which is to the left as you exit the sanctuary in that direction. Again, welcome, and we're glad you're here.
Linda, thank you so much for that welcome, and handbell ringers, thank you so much for the music that began us with love. Love, indeed, is the theme of the day, I think, in some ways, as we'll discover together. But first, I would like us to discover each other. I know that many of you may be here brought by a friend. If you are new and you would like to, I want to invite you to just raise your hand. If you want to go incognito, that's fine too. But we would love to especially welcome you. In fact, we would love to welcome everyone. So I'll invite you now to take a moment, turn toward each other, and give a greeting this morning. Can you run to Rev CTC's office and make sure she knows that service has started? Oh, she's right here. Okay. Oh my God, I was like, where's she? Okay. Thank you. Uh-huh. Hey, Jane. Just want to say welcome. Hi, glad to have you with us this morning. Have time to get new ones. Yeah, they're gone. Friends. Well, we do like each other, don't we? Okay, you will have to sit down sometime. Let's see, how are we doing? It is good to be together with friends old and new. I will not sing you the Girl Scout song. Well, I might. No, I won't. Our call to worship this morning comes from Kenneth Patton. Kenneth Patton was a Universalist minister in the 20th century, and then after the merger, more on that later, a Unitarian Universalist minister. Reverend Patton was known as a mystic humanist, and I think that you can hear that theology in his words this morning. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. Let us love the world through heart and mind and body. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our siblings. We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. All life flows into a great common life if we will only open our eyes to our companions. Let us worship, not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears. Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings, with the full outstretching of our spirits. Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body, to those who have fallen in love with life. Let us worship, and let us learn to love.
This morning, I kindle our candle of compassion very specifically. We kindle this flame for anyone and everyone who is suffering through the pain and the brutality of violence. Whether that violence is in the Ukraine, whether that violence is expressed in your own home and you're a victim of domestic violence, or whether that violence is from someone who you thought you could trust, who you thought would protect and defend, whether you suffer violence at the hands of the police, who are here to help us in our communities. We kindle this flame, this candle of compassion, and think of those who suffer from violence. And let's have a moment of silence. As we move on with our service, let's light our chalice, along with our sibling congregations here in the United States and around the globe. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. Please join me. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Would you now please rise as you're able and join us in singing our opening hymn this morning in the gray hymnal, number 95, There Is More Love.
Somewhere
joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Lori, Jason, thank you so much for your music leadership this morning, and thank you all for your singing. Oh, may we sing more love and more peace into being today. I would like to invite up any smaller people who might like to join me this morning for our story on the chancel. You are welcome to come on up. You may bring your grown-up if you'd like, or you may come on your own. Come right on up. We have some little ones. I could use some help from some slightly older. There we go. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Do you want to join me? Do you want to come right on over here and sit with us? Would you like to sit here? Or there is great. Either place. That's a good place to sit. And we're all just sitting here. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Excellent. We'll be over here. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. What wonderful leadership. I love it. Thank you so much. Excellent. Okay, wonderful. Well, I would like to tell you, oh, that's perfect. Yes, please. Anyone else? Okay, we're good. I would like to tell you a story today, a story called Old Turtle and the Broken Truth. There was once a people in a beautiful land not so far from here and not so different from our own. Oh, the land had beautiful trees and waterfalls, and it was covered with all kinds of different people around the world. One day, from high up in the skies, a truth fell down, and as it fell, it broke. One part of the truth flew off into the forests and the waterfalls, and the other truth fell down slowly, little by little, into earth. And there, would you take it? Do you mind? Thank you so much. And there, I should have gotten to the next line. A person picked it up. Then you would have known. A person picked it up. The person looked at the truth, which felt so beautiful and wonderful. She pondered as she looked at the words on the truth. I wonder if your friends could help to read these words. What do you think? You are loved. That's right. Could you turn it around so that the grown-ups can see? Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, this person loved her truth, and she brought it to her people, and together they guarded this beautiful truth that told them, you are loved. They guarded it, and they felt strong and proud and worthy because they had it. But soon they began to feel fearful and even angry about other people who didn't have this truth. That's you. Thanks so much. Oh, and no, don't share it with them yet. And they weren't Unitarian Universalists, so they jealously guarded their truth, trying to keep it from the hands of the other people. Well, these people, as you can imagine, they tried to take the truth, and one by one, the truth was won. Pass it over. And then lost again. Back and forth, the truth went through many battles on the land, until finally, one little girl, will you come be my little girl for me? Thank you. But you don't have the truth yet. It's still over with your people. Perfect. We've got it all set, and we've had a lot of rehearsal time, as you can see. Until finally, one little girl came to see the wise old turtle. The wise old turtle. And she said, the people in my land are always fighting. They battle back and forth, thank you so much, with each other. Is it always been this way? Is there anything we can do to change it? Wise old turtle said to the little girl, no, it has not always been this way. In fact, there was a time when people knew to listen to the many truths, the little truths all around us, found in the trees and the waterfalls. The problem is that your people have found only a broken truth. and they need the other half to make it whole. Well, how can we find this? How can we change? The little girl asked Wise Old Turtle. And Wise Old Turtle said, only when your people learn to listen to the small truths around them. And when they meet people who seem different than they are, only when they see themselves in each other's eyes will they begin to change. The little girl thought about all these things and how she might bring change to her people, and she was determined that she would do it. So she went on her way home, but before she left, don't show anybody the front. You got it? Okay. The little girl was given a special stone by Old Turtle. She wasn't sure what to do with it, but she knew she liked to hold it. It felt good in her arms, and so she brought it back to her people. But a journey changes you, and her people didn't recognize her. They didn't understand her when she spoke, when she tried to tell them about the small truths all around us, the truths in the trees and the waterfalls. She was at a loss for what she should do, but then suddenly she had an idea. She went to the place in the tallest tower on the highest hill where the people kept their one beautiful broken truth. She took that truth and then fit it together with the new one Old Turtle had given her. She held it up for all to see. Can you flip it? Yep, you got it. Now, what does it say now, our truth? You are loved, and so are they. Some people looked in wonder. Some frowned. Some laughed. Some cried. But little by little, they began to understand. Their truth, the one that they had held so dear, it was incomplete without its other half, without the whole that told them, you are loved, and so are they. And so over time, the people began to understand the great whole unbroken truth. They began to listen to the small truths around them in the trees and in the waterfalls. And when they met each other, they began to see themselves. And that is what we learn too in Unitarian Universalism. Thank you so much to my wonderful helpers here. I appreciate that. And to the truth that we learn and discover together. And we are going to now sing you on your way to your classes and to join our other children as they go off to their Sunday school classes. I invite you to sing our children's blessing song found in your order of service.
Peace to you on your way. May you grow in love each day, meeting new friends and opening your mind to the wonders of the world you will find. To wonders of the world you will find.
Every time I go to tell a story to our children, they surprise me. Our story could have been short indeed had the truth been shared right away as our children decided to. But I appreciate that they stuck with me through the plot I had prepared. As our children go to their classes, we wish for them openness to the wonders of the world they will find. And that is my wish for us as well. Some people say that to pray is just to open your heart. I want to invite you in that spirit into a time of prayer and meditation, a time of opening your heart. I invite you to settle yourself in your seat. If you'd like to close your eyes, please do, or soften your gaze. Take a breath. Let it out. Take another, feeling your stomach and chest expand and contract, feeling your body in this place, in this moment. And open your heart. Open your heart to yourself. Open your heart to the joy or the sorrow, the fear or the worry you bring in with you this morning. Open your heart and let it in. Open your heart to the people around you, stranger and friend. Open your heart to the knowledge they too carry joy and sorrow. Welcome it. Let it in. Open your heart to the words and the music, to the stories that each of us tell, to the small truths around us that whisper of beauty and joy. Open your heart. Let them in. In the silence that follows, and as we sing together, Fuente de Amor, Spirit of Life, may our hearts be open to all that is.
In January, 70% of our offering will be given to UCA's youth group. There are many ways to give to UCA, through our website, by text, and the Give Plus app, as well as mailing a check. Please put plate in the memo line. As you're making your donations, please remember that 30% goes to the continuing mission of UCA, and that in January, 70% goes directly to youth group. My name is Mariel Carr. I'm a sophomore at Alexandria City High School, and I'm a member of Youth Group. This year, Youth Group hosted the 100 Coats, 1,000 Pounds of Food Drive in November, and we work regularly to keep the Little Free Pantry supplies organized. In the future, we hope to reestablish the rich tradition of service trips that were common before COVID. Gifts from the congregation are part of what make our activities possible. Thank you for your support of Youth Group this month. The offering will now be received.
We are a congregation that gives. Will the ushers please bring the offering forward? And Mariel, would you join me again, please? Why don't you do this part?
We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity.
And together, please.
Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation.
As this congregation celebrates our 75th anniversary, we are inviting folks to share with us their experiences through our 75 years, how they have been building community here. And I'm so pleased that Rick Blackston will be sharing with us. I think you will hear how he has been building worldwide community during his time. So I invite Rick forward to share with us this morning. Good morning.
So I'm going to talk about our ESOL program, ESOL. What is ESOL? ESOL is English for Speakers. Oh, I was going to start my Procrustean hook. It's going to take me off if I go over 5 minutes timer. English for Speakers of Other Languages. This is distinct, sort of distinguished from ESL, English for second, as English is a second language. Those programs tend to seem to focus for beginning students, where ours have ended up focusing more on advanced English speakers. So this program is like 30 years old and one of the oldest volunteer programs in the church. And I have like 50 names of past volunteers in my contact list. The early days of ESOL, we had classes downstairs in the RE department. We had classes ran an hour or so, and we held them 3 nights a week and Saturday mornings. Students came mainly from Arlington and Alexandria, but there was a high student, but they came from around the world. There was a high student turnover rate, but a number remained for months and then years, right up to today. Students and volunteers became quite a family. We had potluck dinners at volunteers' homes, picnics in the park, bowling and other outings, Halloween costume parties, and in the back of there, way back, I have a lot of photographs laid out and more information on ESOL you can look at. Bob Taylor would come and have winter sing-alongs, which were a big hit. Joan Perry arranged to have the group make meals for the homeless, which really translated what our values were about. And though the students all resided locally, they came from all over the world. Just a couple. Riva was a cook with a Spanish embassy, and we loved to have him show up because he brought food. And then, I remember we had a cookout in our backyard, and he brought everything to make delicious paella. I'd like to just mention Rosie Lashai, who was still is a Bangladeshi woman, but she's now a U.S. citizen. And I was so honored to attend her citizenship ceremony, and so many others. Where am I here? Everything was copacetic until the COVID pandemic hit in 2020. And bang, that closed the church's doors. And so what did we do? Well, we migrated to Zoom, and so we had this sow's ear, and we could not turn it into a silk purse, but maybe sort of a leather purse or something. It had some advantages. And so class sizes grew. They grew, so now we have class sizes of a dozen or more. Again, 3 times a week and on Saturday mornings. And well, I teach on Thursday. I host, we don't say teach, I host on Thursday afternoons. Some of our volunteers even join us from afar. Now our students come not just from around the area or other states, they come from around the world. At last count, I've counted over about 3 dozen students that come from around the world. And by that I mean they come in, they're signing in from around the world, not just that they came from there originally. Some of our students have become regulars. For example, Vladi and Nadia from Ukraine, Anna and Alina from Russia, and again, Nadia and Vladi are in the U.S. Alina and Anna are from Russia. We've got Rosie that comes in from Italy, and I don't have time to list all the others. And Faraday is a woman from Iran. She lives in Boston, but I know she's heading back and maybe is in Iran now. She's so concerned about the Iranian women, and I worry a little bit about what she's doing there, but hopefully, and we wish her well. Although I headed the program up for a long time, when we moved to Zoom, it became administratively a challenge for me, and I was fortunate to find 2 tech-savvy women who have taken over the administration, Claudia Guidi and Wendy Collar. And so Zoom offers advantages of maskless faces, closed captioning, screen sharing, and breakout rooms, which are really nice when so large groups can cut down to smaller ones. And I'd like to see the program still grow. You'll find information there on how to contact me and others about volunteering. We always can use volunteers to help with breakout rooms and just conversation in general. And I think that's about it because my timer's going to ring. Thank you very much.
As we move forward into the rest of this church year, you're going to hear much more about the 75th anniversary. There'll be testimonials, there'll be things displayed in Fellowship Hall, there'll be pieces of the history of the church brought forward so we can all re-experience it again. If you look in your order of service, it says reading, there's a blank space. All that means is that when it was time to print, we did not have a reading selected for you. So, and I'll tell you honestly, this is not a reading that I'm about to offer you. More than anything, it's again a testimonial. And the question that they were answering was, why am I a Unitarian Universalist? This is a question that we often get on Bring a Friend Day, and it's a question we always get in our newcomer classes. So I want you to listen with both ears and consider borrowing some of the comments I'm about to share with you for your answer to this question. It's really important as a UU that when someone says to you, so what is that and why do you do it? You have an answer. That's like your elevator speech, 15 to 20 seconds, but you should have an answer. So what I'm offering you is 2 answers from the question, why am I a Unitarian Universalist? These are asked at a congregation, and the members answered fully. This is from David. That's an easy question to answer. I'm a Unitarian Universalist because I like being in a church community. I like being inside a church environment. I love being in our sanctuary. I like to sing hymns and hear encouraging sermons. I like to play my guitar and help with the streaming of our service to YouTube. Where else would I be able to do all of this? Through the years, I've learned a lot by being a UU. For example, our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And we believe that we are all saved. Salvation is ours simply because we exist. Our Universalist belief is that there's nothing I need to do to be saved. We don't shame each other. We don't threaten each other with damnation. We don't force each other to adhere to a certain creed or a certain doctrine. Many of us came from other faith traditions. For myself, I grew up Lutheran. Later, when I was in college, I got caught up in the fundamentalism, and that was kind of a disaster for me. But then, I landed in a UU church. And now, as a Unitarian Universalist, I can cherish and celebrate a diverse set of religious ideas from all over the world. In my congregation, there are Buddhists, Christians, Jewish, folks who are pagan, and those who believe in native religions. But more importantly, in that congregation, I can learn from others. You see, we all come from diverse and colorful backgrounds, and we all have something to offer. Those words are David's. And the second one I'll share is by a woman that was named Carol, but it's not my words. I came to Unitarian Universalism over 20 years ago. I was fairly broken spiritually. I'd heard about the wonderful community that was there in that congregation. A couple of my friends, another fellow, a few times they said, "Why don't you come with us?" From my first visit to date, the welcoming spirit that I was told about is actually lived and played out every time I gather with my fellow members, whether it's worship, whether it's participating in a community service event, whether it's fellowship in general or going on a nature walk. Being with those people in my congregation feeds my spirit. As a pagan UU, I've always felt I belong to this community who so deeply value our differences as much as we value our similarities. Though many years of teaching religious exploration and religious education, I've learned as much as I hope I have taught to people over the years. I cherish the friendships I've formed in my congregation. I look forward to many more years of learning and sharing our amazing Unitarian Universalist traditions. I am home when I am at church. And the last one is from a woman named Tina. I just want to read the last two sentences of hers. I go to my church with joy and a sense of relief because I have found community among and with others. It transcends the idea of right or wrong, of how you're supposed to know God. That higher level of thinking, that higher consciousness, it is present in everything that we do. For that, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and I know my search has ended, and indeed, the journey has only begun. What's your elevator speech? How would you answer the question, why am I a Unitarian Universalist? Think about it. Crib a few of these things, but mostly be able to share the joy.
Rev. CTC, thank you so much for sharing those words from Unitarian Universalists. And Rick, thank you for sharing about your story and your journey with ESOL and at this congregation. It is a joy indeed to see so many new folks here, those of you who have come with a friend this morning. I always think it takes a fair amount of courage to come into a congregation for the first time. I think it especially takes courage if, like many folks who find their way to Unitarian Universalism, if you have had experiences with religion in the past that have harmed or hurt you, or perhaps experiences with religion where you find that the creed no longer speaks to you or that the people there didn't live up to their values. There are all kinds of reasons why it takes courage to come to a religious congregation's gathering for the first time, and so I am grateful for your courage. I think it also takes a particular kind of courage, or maybe it's curiosity or a sense of experimentation, to come to a Unitarian Universalist congregation for the first time. In fact, first you have to figure out how to say those words and in the correct order. Is it what now? Universal? Is it just universe? Is it a universe church? Maybe. I don't know. I like that. I like the cosmos. I would be that. There's a UU congregation, and I do get that question all the time. Is it okay to say UU? Is that offensive? It's not. UU's just fine with us. We like it so much, in fact, that we like to use two U's to spell words here. Like, oh, it's super here, or, oh, what are some of the other ones? It just goes on. It goes on. It really does. No, it's just fine to say UU. There's a UU church that is built right across the street from a Unification church, which is a different religion. And sometimes people go to one or the other when they meant to go to the other one. And so I feel like at least we have avoided that confusion here. You are in, I hope, the place you intended to be this morning. Congratulations. So what exactly is a Unitarian Universalist congregation? If you manage to get the words in approximately the right order, what is this place? How long has it been around? Was it invented recently? Like, I don't know, maybe it kind of seems like it could be the 70s, you're not sure. I'd like to explore a little bit with you this morning what Unitarian Universalism is, where it's from, and how we articulate our beliefs, our values, and the boundaries that hold us. And now a little insider baseball for some of our UU members here at UUCA. Part of what I'd like to explore today are our principles, the current articulation of our principles. We're going to get there, don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about. And how we are re-examining those as a national and indeed an international denomination through the work of the Article 2 Commission. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's great. Maybe you're a newcomer, or more likely you're a member and you just weren't really always paying perfect attention. I don't know, it is possible that that happens. I like to think that people listen to every word I say and read every piece of the newsletter, but it's not true. We'll get there, but if you have been following, just know that's the direction that we're heading. Okay, so how, though, do we get there? Let's see, I don't even know what page I'm on, doesn't matter. Unitarian Universalism, a history in just a few moments. Are we ready? I'm going to talk fast. Unitarian Universalism comes originally from two different traditions, Unitarianism and Universalism. Now, they have their roots philosophically and theologically all the way back in early Christianity and also in Eastern Europe in the Radical Reformation, but we're going to start in 19th century United States because that seems like it's early enough. With Unitarianism and Universalism, two heretical, so not like the Orthodox, two heretical Christian traditions, each of them with a different heresy. The Unitarians were thinking to themselves, and I'm paraphrasing some famous sermons, gosh, gee, it seems like the Trinity isn't necessarily in the Bible. Perhaps instead, that's the paraphrase was gosh, gee. Perhaps instead we believe in the unity of God and the prophetic teaching of Jesus, right? Also, we aren't so sure about original sin, another paraphrase. In fact, we think that people are born with the capacity to do good and to do evil, and it is our work to grow in goodness through our lifetime. That's Unitarianism. Then over here we have Universalism, who thought, another paraphrase, hell doesn't seem like a great idea, and indeed that a loving God would never separate people fully from God's self. So they got rid of the idea of hell. There was a little bit of confusion. Maybe there was purgatory. Ultimately figured out that there was, in fact, universal salvation, right? That's the universal in Universalism. The idea that a loving God will bring us all together in universal salvation. Okay, we have Unitarianism and Universalism in the 19th century, two radical, heretical Christian traditions. traditions. They continued on forward, continuing to expand and think, to bring more folks in, to open up their minds and hearts all the way through to the 20th century when humanism takes Unitarianism especially by storm, Universalism as well. And these traditions, sometimes I talk about them protesting their way right out of Protestantism, right? They kept protesting until they became something significantly different than the Christian traditions around them. Fast forward to 1961, when the two traditions merged to become Unitarian Universalism, and you have the beginning of what we have now in the 21st century, a pluralistic religious movement with, as I think we'll discover together, love at its center. Roots in historic Christianity, but now an understanding of itself that welcomes in atheists and theists, Jewish folks and Hindu folks, everybody together covenanting to be with each other in this journey called life. The end, Unitarian Universalism. But not the end, right? Because we continue to evolve. So, okay. One of the things that is important about both Unitarianism and Universalism and Unitarian Universalism is that they have been and remain now creedless traditions. In many ways, that separated us from the very beginning from some of our sibling denominations who might have had a recited creed on Sunday morning or a creed that you sign on the dotted line when you join. Unitarian Universalism is without creed. There's no particular set of beliefs that you must adhere to about God or the nature of the world in order to be a member of the congregation. In fact, it is prohibited in our bylaws as a national movement to have a creedal test for membership. But that doesn't mean that we are boundaryless. And it's those boundaries that I want to explore a little bit together today. The boundaries that create the movement within which we find ourselves. Now, those boundaries have been articulated in lots of different ways, most often in the form of a covenant. Values that we covenant to hold ourselves and each other accountable to. Sometimes they come from the articulated beliefs of the people within the tradition. And in fact, we find them time and again over our history. In the late 19th century, in 1866, we have one of the first kind of articulations of what Unitarians believed. Remember, we had about 100 years before merger now. Those articulations were 1887. I was never good at dates. Please don't tell my history teachers. We believe that to love the good and to live the good is the supreme thing in religion. Some of those words continue to resonate today, and yet over the years we have articulated them differently. When humanism came through Unitarianism, another articulation of our core values was defined in 1936. That particular one began with the words, "In affirming the primacy of the free exercise of intelligence in religion, believing that in the long run, the safest guide to truth is human intelligence." And then again in 1961, when the two movements came together into one movement, we began our articulation that we came together united in seeking to strengthen one another in a free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship. In 1985, the version of principles that many of us in this congregation are familiar with, the 7 principles found right in the front of your hymnal, was articulated and codified and adopted by the Unitarian Universalist Association as a whole in a democratic process at our General Assembly, and then modified in 1995. Now, each of these different articulations holds within it some of our deepest core values, the boundaries of who we are. The idea that together we are free to search for meaning, to learn from each other. that we affirm the worth of every person and the idea that we are all connected to each other. These boundaries help us to understand not only what points us forward, but also what lies on the outside of who we are, what is not within the circle of our covenant. Sometimes folks will say, oh, Unitarian Universalism, that's the religion where you can believe anything you want. And I will tell you, it's not just people that are outside Unitarian Universalism who say that. They are our very own people. And then every minister rises up against them. And no, But indeed, there are ways of being, of understanding that you can imagine fall outside the boundaries we create with our covenant. An understanding of some people as better than others. That doesn't hold within the covenant that affirms the worth of every person. A disinterest in the welfare of people not related to your own self-interest doesn't fall within the boundaries of our covenant, the one that says we are all connected in an interdependent web of life. The boundaries help us to understand who we are and how we act in the world. So here's the insider baseball part. For those of us who have been part of Unitarian Universalism for many years, indeed since the mid-'80s when those 7 principles were codified and adopted, well, we think those 7 principles are the way things are. We even have a children's song we like to sing about them. 1, each person is important. 2, be kind in all you do. We won't sing the whole thing, but we could. We could. See me after for a rousing rendition. Those 7 principles seem in some ways to be what Unitarian Universalism is. And I know I am not the only Unitarian Universalist who, when asked the question, what is Unitarian Universalism, have I whipped out the 7 principles. In fact, I used to have a little card I kept in my wallet with the 7 principles handy so I could share them with folks. The Article 2 Commission, remember I mentioned that earlier, is a body within the larger Unitarian Universalist Association that is looking at the language used in those principles and reimagining how we talk about our faith today. Finding what it is that continues to draw us forward, to help us understand who we are and how we want to be in the world, and to re-articulate it in language that places love at the center and our values all around it. In fact, if you look at your cover of your order of service, or if you are watching online, I am told that this image is appearing to my left, even now. You'll see a visual representation of some of the work of the Article 2 Commission. They tell us to imagine this image in motion, like a rainbow pinwheel blowing in the wind. Love at its center and our values all around, no one of them more important than the other. Values of transformation, of justice. So for those of us who perhaps were raised or have been a long time in Unitarian Universalism, we may be thinking, but what about my principles? I learned that song and everything. Perhaps I have the principles on a handy card in my wallet, or maybe they are hanging on a poster in my church or in my office. There's actually a cheat sheet that will map the principles to the new language that's been created. I promise you that they are there, the interdependent web of life, the worth and dignity of every person, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You'll find all those phrases in the new articulation. You will also find, and I know this congregation in particular will be glad to know, some of the language in the 8th principle. In the last few years, the 8th principle has been brought through as a kind of groundswell movement across the country and through Canada, inviting congregations to adopt, congregation by congregation, an additional principle that places in the center our work against systemic racism and toward building beloved community. Well, Paula Cole Jones, one of the creators of the Eighth Principle Project, was part of the Article 2 Commission. And I think you'll see in that justice articulation in the new language exactly that emphasis on systemic racism and our work against it in our covenant with each other. Now, here's the thing. Beyond all of the insider baseball and the votes that are coming, though they are coming, we invite you to learn more, to come to another sermon about being religion with love at its center on February 12th, and to join us on March 5th when we gather with a couple other UU congregations to talk about the language, and then to go to General Assembly in Pittsburgh this year. It's never going to be closer, just 4 hours away, a handy drive, to go to General Assembly for the first vote of the gathered bodies, where we move this language forward with a majority, and then next year at General Assembly, we have another vote of a 2/3 majority to adopt it into our bylaws. Hopefully you're getting that one of our values is the democratic process. Beyond all that insider baseball, beyond the particular words used, and surely we might all edit them with a red pen, there is no urge greater. What comes to me as I think about Unitarian Universalism, as I think about the principles that I grew up with and memorized in song, as I think about the new articulation that places love at its center, what matters to me are not the particular words we use. Remember, we are a non-creedal tradition. The words are only ever an arrow, pointing us toward how to be, how to act in the world. What matters to me is whether the words we use point the arrow toward justice, toward repair, toward reconciliation. What matters to me is whether the words we use help me to respond to a broken world. What matters to me is whether the words we use help me to live my own life, to see the gifts I bring and to know that those gifts are for the good of the community. Perhaps, like me, you have spent the last couple of days holding horror in your heart as we have grappled with the news of yet another Black man killed by police. I hold the name of Tyree Nichols. May he rest in peace and in power. What matters to me is that the words we use help me know how to respond when I see again that the world is broken. What matters to me is that the words we use help me know how to act, where to put my body, how to love people toward repair. The words we use are only ever an arrow in Unitarian Universalism, pointing us toward the world we hope to create, the people we hope to be, the goodness that our Unitarian ancestors wanted us to live toward ever and ever, the idea of a whole world, a whole universe saved, and saved only together. The words are an arrow, and they matter the way all words matter. But as we explore our 7 principles now, or the pinwheel of values with love at its center that we are invited to consider, let us remember too the spirit that runs through every articulation of Unitarian values, every articulation of Universalist love, every articulation of Unitarian Universalism through the decades. The spirit of action, the spirit of being, the spirit of covenant that we hold each other to and that we seek to create in the world. May it be so. I invite you now to join in singing, and we will use some old words in this hymn, another reminder of the spirit that runs through the words. This is "Where is Our Holy Church?"
That's right. It's hymn number 113 in your gray hymnal, and we'll be singing verses 1, 2, and 5. 113, Where is Our Holy Church?
Where is our holy church, where recent class unite, as equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right? Where is our holy writ, where our human heart a sacred torch of truth has lit, by inspiration taught? Where is our paradise, in aspiration's sight, wherein we hope to see our rise 10,000 years of light?
New words for 10,000 years, but may the spirit remain one of action, of covenant, and of love. May it be so.
Extinguish our chalice, I offer you these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.